Anyhow, if there is a human in the loop, so if you have any questions, go for it. We'll try answering. I'll try answering them myself. Uh, but then I probably won't be able to answer it really well, so I'll give it to one of the AI tools as a prompt.
How much do we like really perceive the world around us? I mean, beyond just what we see in here. What about all that invisible stuff inside our bodies, out in the environment that tech is now letting us peek into? It's kind of wild when you think about it. Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the show that digs through sources, articles, data, you name it, and pulls out the gold. Our mission today, to get you up to speed on something seriously cutting edge. We promise some surprises and maybe just enough dark humor to keep things interesting. We're diving into this really cool interactive visualization all about sensing modalities. Think of it like a dynamic map for all the ways we can measure stuff, brains, bodies, whatever. And it's not just a list, okay? It's a comparison tool. It shows you the trade-offs. You know, speed versus detail versus,
Right.
yeah, how much it's going to cost you. Sometimes a lot. So if you're curious about your fitness tracker tech or how scientists actually see brain activity, or maybe you just like knowing how things work, stick
Yeah.
around. We're going to break down what makes a cheap webcam different from, say, a Hollywood motion capture rig, and why sometimes getting the best data involves taking out a second mortgage.
Right. And this visualization, it's actually, it's really well thought out. It's aimed at a pretty broad audience. You've got researchers, biomedical engineers, sure, but also product developers, even students. It gives you this quick, kind of at a glance way to figure out which sensing tech might actually work for what you're trying to do. Cuts through a lot of noise.
Okay, so it simplifies things. What are the core measurements it uses? How does it actually compare all these different sensors?
Yeah, it boils down to three main things. First up, on the x-axis, you've got temporal resolution. That's basically how often the sensor grabs data. Can it catch really fast changes? Higher numbers mean faster sampling. Speed, essentially.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Speed. Can you give us an example? Make it concrete.
Oh, definitely. So take a high-density EEG,
Yep.
brainwaves, right? That can sample it over 1,000 times a second. 1,000 hertz plus. It's catching pretty much every tiny flicker. Yeah. Now compare that to, say, an fMRI, also brain imaging, but it samples maybe once or twice a second.
Yeah.
zero point 0.5 to 2 hertz. So one's like super slow-mo video of brain activity. The other's more like taking a snapshot every now and then.
Yeah.
Big difference in what you can see happening over time.
Okay, yeah, that paints a picture. One's catching the lightning, the other's watching the clouds drift. So speed is one thing. Then the y-axis. Spatial resolution. What's that telling us?
Right, spatial, that's about precision.
Yeah.
How well can the sensor tell the difference between 2 points in space? Higher value means it can pinpoint where a signal is coming from with more accuracy, more detail, basically.
Location, location, location.
Exactly. So that fMRI we mentioned, it's slow, but its spatial resolution is amazing. Like 9 out of 10. It can tell you precisely which tiny bit of the brain is active. But then you take like a consumer ECG, the heart rate thing in your watch,
Mm-hmm.
its spatial detail is super low, maybe 1 out of 10. Great for knowing your heart's beating, but not where in the heart a specific issue might be. It's kind of the difference between having a map of the whole city versus knowing the exact street address of the party. Sometimes you just need to know the party's happening, right?
Ha, right. Don't need the apartment number if you're just checking for vital signs. Okay. Speed, location, and the elephant in the room. Relative cost. Represented by bubble size, you said?
Yeah, bubble size, it's the third dimension here. Bigger bubble, bigger price tag. And this covers, the gear itself, setting it up, running it, and the scale goes up to 20 out of 20. Some of these bubbles are,
Yeah.
let's just say they represent truly eye-watering sums of money. Getting the best view can cost you a lot.
Breathtaking is one word for it. Okay, let's get into the specific types, the categories, because that's where the really juicy comparisons are, isn't it? The trade-offs.
Exactly. Let's start with the brain, the neuromodalities.
Ah, yes, the brain business. Looking at the chart, it seems like trying to figure out the brain is basically the most expensive hobby listed here. Is that fair?
Yeah. It's certainly up there.
Yeah.
You've got magnetoencephalography, amazing speed, right? 9 out of 10 temporal. Pretty good spatial, too. 8 out of 10. Cost, maxed out. 20 out of 20. Used for mapping brain activity second by second.
Okay, speed demon. And fMRI.
fMRI we mentioned. Also 20 out of 20. Cost. But it's the opposite trade-off. Fantastic spatial, 9 out of 10, but super slow, only 1 out of 10 temporal, great for seeing where, not so much when. Precisely.
So it's like pick your poison, speed, or detail, but either way, prepare your wallet for serious pain.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
High-stakes research. But then you have EEG, electroencephalogram. The high-density research version is still pricey, 18 out of 20 cost. Gives you good speed, 8 temporal, but only okay spatial, 4. Used in labs, brain-computer interfaces, that kind of thing.
But there's a cheaper version, the wearable one.
Exactly. EEG, wearable. The cost plummets to 8 out of 20. Temporal resolution drops a bit to 6, and spatial takes a bigger hit down to 2.
Yeah.
So, it's great for consumer wellness apps, sleep tracking, stuff where you don't need pinpoint accuracy.
That's a really interesting drop. You trade a lot of the fine detail, but suddenly it's something people can actually, buy and wear at home.
That's the key trade-off, accessibility versus granularity.
And then there's this one, DBS, deep brain stimulation. 7 temporal, 6 spatial, and cost. 19 out of 20, almost maxed out. And it says clinical neuromodulation. This isn't just measuring, is it? This sounds invasive.
Oh, it is. We're talking surgically implanted electrodes. It's not sensing, it's intervening, trying to actively change brain activity for clinical reasons like Parkinson's. The cost and the invasiveness. Yeah, they tell a story about how serious the conditions are that we're trying to treat. It's pretty intense stuff.
Intense is right. Okay, from the complexities of the brain, let's move to something maybe a bit more physical. Let's talk muscle modalities, getting into the nitty-gritty of movement.
Right. Electromyography.
EMG.
Measuring electrical activity from muscles. And again, you see a clear progression. You start with surface EMG, slap some electrodes on the skin, good speed, 8 temporal, spatial's kind of low, 3. Cost is moderate, 9 out of 20. Great for prosthetics, sports science, getting a general picture.
Okay, makes sense. What's next up?
For more detail, you go to high-density EMG. More electrodes, closer together, speed bumps up to 9, spatial jumps to 6. Cost goes up 2, 15 out of 20. Now you're getting into research, detailed muscle imaging.
And then for the ultimate muscle detail, the chart mentions intramuscular EMG, 9 temporal, 8 spatial, 17 cost. That sounds pointy.
Yeah. Intramuscular means exactly what you think it means. Needles straight into the muscle fiber.
Ouch.
Yeah, not exactly pleasant, but for certain clinical diagnoses, you need that incredibly fine-grained detail about exactly which muscle fibers are firing or not firing. The things we do for data, right?
Seriously, diagnostic precision sometimes requires a bit of, discomfort. Okay, moving on. Visual modalities. Seeing is believing, or at least sensing.
Yeah. And here, the spectrum is probably more familiar. You start with your basic webcam. Cheap and cheerful. 3 temporal, 3 spatial. Cost is only 4 out of 20. Good enough for Zoom calls, basic tracking.
The unsung hero of the pandemic.
Totally. Then you scale up. A nice 4K, high-end video camera. Now you're at 5 temporal, much better spatial at 8, but the cost jumps to 16. Used for proper motion capture, research.
And for the real speed freaks, high-speed video.
Oh, yeah. Capable of like 240, even 1,000 frames per second or more. Temporal shoots up to 8, spatial is decent at 7, cost is high at 18. This is for really detailed 3D tracking, VR, AR stuff, where you need to capture super fast movements.
So from a blurry video call to capturing every muscle twitch for virtual reality, there's a camera for basically every need and budget.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And don't forget thermal imaging. Different kind of visual. 3 temporal, 4 spatial, 11 cost. Seeing heat signatures, useful for stress detection, medical diagnostics, seeing the world in infrared. Kind of cool.
Literally cool or hot, depending. Okay, let's listen to the heart. Cardio modalities.
Right. And again, that clinical versus consumer split is really clear with ECG, the electrocardiogram. Clinical ECG, 8 temporal, only 2 spatial, but 12 cost. That's for proper medical diagnosis in a hospital or clinic.
And the consumer version, like in my watch.
Yep. Consumer ECG, speed drops a bit to 6 temporal. Spatial is minimal at 1, but the cost is way down at 6 out of 20. Perfect for fitness tracking, just general monitoring.
And then there's PPG. That's the little light sensor, right?
That's the one. Photoplethysmography, very common in wearables. Temporal is okay at 5. Spatial is basically non-existent at 1, but it's super cheap, 5 out of 20 cost. It's a fantastic example of good enough technology taking over because it's so accessible. It's on millions of wrists, tracking heart rates. Sometimes the cheapest option really does change the game.
Proof that sometimes good enough is actually revolutionary. Okay, what about audio modalities? Beyond just recording podcasts.
Yeah. So a standard microphone like we're using now, pretty good temporal at 6, basically no spatial to speak of, 1.
Yeah.
And cheap, 4 out of 20 cost. Great for speech, basic audio capture.
But then you have ultrasonic microphones. 9 temporal, 2 spatial, 14 cost. What on earth are we listening to with those? Things we can't even hear.
Exactly. Frequencies way up there, 40 to 100 kilohertz. Bats, maybe?
Yeah.
Or detecting leaks in pipes, mechanical failures, high-frequency sounds that signal something interesting or maybe something breaking.
The secret language of dying hard drives. Spooky. Okay, last category, other modalities. The miscellaneous drawer of sensing.
Sort of. You've got GSR, galvanic skin response, or electrodermal activity, basically measuring sweat on your skin. Very slow, 2 temporal, minimal spatial, 1, cheap, 5 cost. But surprisingly useful for tracking stress, emotional arousal, how clammy your hands get. Essentially simple, but tells you something personal.
Huh. And finally, the absolute rock bottom cheapest sensor on the entire chart. The temperature sensor. 2 temporal, 2 spatial, cost 3 out of 20.
The humble thermometer.
Yeah.
Seems basic, right? But absolutely essential in so many applications, from medical to environmental monitoring. Sometimes the simplest data point is the most critical.
It really puts it all in perspective.
Right.
So looking at this whole map of sensors, what's the big takeaway, the pro tip for someone trying to navigate this?
Well, look at the chart's layout. The top right corner. That's your high-performance, high-cost stuff. Cutting-edge, expensive. Think fMRI, MEG. The bottom left. That's where you find the cheaper, often lower resolution, but maybe more accessible options. Your webcam, your temperature sensor, consumer ECG.
So the quadrants tell a story about performance versus cost.
Exactly. And the main lesson is, there's no single best sensor. It's always about finding the most suitable one for your specific job. You have to balance what you need in terms of speed, how precise you need the location data to be, and crucially, what your budget can handle.
It's like picking a tool, right? You wouldn't use a delicate surgical laser to, I don't know, chop down a tree. Or maybe you would if you had a really weird tree problem and unlimited funds.
Precisely. You need the right tool for the job. In this visualization, it's fantastic for anyone who is trying to pick that tool. Designing an interface, planning research, even just exploring what's possible with biosensing tech. It lays out the options and those crucial trade-offs.
And it sounds like this isn't even the final version. The source mentioned future plans.
Yeah, they're talking about adding more comparison points. Things like portability, can you actually carry the thing around? Power consumption, does it drain batteries in 5 minutes? Invasiveness, we talked about needles, right? How much does it interfere with the person? And just ease of use.
Those sound incredibly useful, especially invasiveness and portability.
Totally. And they also plan to add more sensors, let you export data, maybe even have community contributions and specific use case examples like, if you want to build this, try combining these sensors.
So it's a living tool. Makes sense. The world of sensing tech isn't exactly standing still.
Not at all. It's constantly changing, evolving. More data, smaller sensors, different techniques. The only constant is really the quest for more information, for better or worse.
Okay, so we've kind of toured this whole landscape, from mapping brains with million-dollar machines to checking your heart rate with a cheap watch sensor. You should have a much clearer picture now of the trade-offs involved: speed, detail, cost, whenever we try to capture data from ourselves or the world.
And it's really striking, I think, is how this stuff isn't just lab equipment anymore. It's not just hospitals. It's literally woven into our daily lives now. Smartwatches, VR headsets, phones, they're all sensing us all the time. Every little bit of data tells a story about you.
Yeah, that's the provocative part, isn't it? As these sensors get smaller, cheaper, everywhere, what new stories are they going to tell? Maybe stories we didn't expect. And, on the slightly darker side, what about privacy? Control. What happens when the ability to sense us becomes even more pervasive and detailed? That's something to chew on.
Definitely. So maybe think about the sensors already in your life. What are they gathering? What trade-offs were made to put them there? Hopefully this deep dive gives you a better lens to look at this fascinating and maybe sometimes slightly unsettling world of technology that's constantly, quietly gathering data all around us.
Okay, as per usual, there's a human in the loop. If you have any questions, welcome to Gemini University. Yes, this was all AI, as you could tell. But there's a human expert monitoring this stuff, so it should be more or less accurate. Well, we are reviewing it together, so